Hello, welcome to Today in History. It's the 18th of October. Let us roll back the blind now to the year 1867. So, as this picture clearly illustrates, this is the day that the US took possession of Alaska. So, this is the day. The year was 1867. They purchased Alaska from Russia for $7.2 million, or less than 2 cents an acre. Incredible. The Alaska purchase comprised 586,412 square miles, about twice the size of Texas, and was championed by William Henry Seward, the enthusiastically expansionist Secretary of State under President Andrew Johnson. So this was the day the USA took possession of Alaska in 1967. Alaska is one of the two non-contiguous states of the United States of America. Interestingly, one wonders why Puerto Rico isn't one of the states of America, because coincidentally, on this day in 1898, Puerto Rico was turned over to the United States following the Spanish-American War. So that's a picture of the State House in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is not a U.S. state. It's a U.S. territory. It's classed as a U.S. territory. So this was the day it was turned over to the United States following the Spanish-American War. So let's move on to 1919. On this day, Joseph Philippe Pierre Yves Elliott Trudeau, mostly referred to simply as Pierre Trudeau. He was born. He was a Canadian politician who became the 15th Prime Minister of Canada and leader of the Liberal Party of Canada between 1968 and 1984, with a brief period as leader of the opposition from 1979 to 1980. So this is Pierre Trudeau, who was born on this day, former Prime Minister of Canada, pictured right here. Let's move on to the year 1922. And this is the day that the British Broadcasting Company Limited was established. So the BBC, which later became the British Broadcasting Corporation in 1927. So 1922 was the day that the BBC was born, but as a company. It's now a corporation. So happy birthday, BBC. 1922 started on this day. 1926, Chuck Berry, pictured here, was an American singer, songwriter, and guitarist. He was one of the most popular and influential performers in the rhythm and blues rock and roll music in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s. So that's Chuck Berry, born on this day in 1926. 1931, the famous Thomas Edison, pictured here with a light bulb. He died on this day. He was an American inventor, was especially known for his critical role in introducing the modern age of electricity. He died in West Orange, New Jersey, on this day in 1931. Also in 1931, this notorious man, American gangster, businessman, Al Capone, was convicted on this day for income tax evasion and was subsequently sentenced to 11 years in prison His full name was Alphonse Gabriel Capone, sometimes known by the nickname Scarface. He attained notoriety during the Prohibition era as the co-founder and boss of the Chicago outfits. So Al Capone, this was the day he was convicted of federal income tax evasion and sentenced to 11 years in prison. Let's move on to the year 1945. On this day, 1945, Paul Robeson, pictured here. He won the Spingarn Medal for his singing and acting achievements. So who was Paul Robeson? Full name, Paul Leroy Robeson. He was an American-based baritone concert artist and stage and film actor who became famous both for his cultural accomplishments and for his political activism. Educated at Rutgers College and Columbia University, he was a star athlete in his youth. He also studied Swahili and phonetics at the School of Oriental and African Studies in London in 1934. In the United States, he became active in the civil rights movement and other social justice campaigns. So that is Paul Robeson, who won the Spingarn Medal for his singing and acting achievements on this day in 1945. And as you can see here, there's a book, biography by Martin Doberman, biography of Paul Robeson. So go check it out. Should be available on Amazon. Check it out, find out more about Paul Robeson. Now, this is an interesting one. 1963. Félicette. You wouldn't believe who Félicette is. It's a cat, pictured here. Becomes the first cat in space on this day in 1963. So that's Félicette. It was a French cat named Félicette, also known as Astro Cat. France blasted the cat into outer space on this day. Electrodes implanted in her brain sent neurological signals back to Earth. She survived the trip. So, show you some more pictures. Space cat back alive. And there's something here that says a double fracture. So there must have been some fracture, bone fracture, during the flight. Anyway, that's a cat, Félicette, and here again. Okay, yeah, there's something to smile about. The poor terrified cat didn't have a clue what he or she was getting itself into. Anyway, let's move on now to the next event on this day. Sadly, this man called Ken Saro-Wiwa Jr. died on this day in 2016. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of a background into his story. His full name is Kenule Bonale Saro-Wiwa. He was born on the 28th of November 1968 and of course died on this day in 2016. Also known as Ken Saro-Wiwa Jr., was a Nigerian journalist and author. As of 2013, he served as an aide to former President Goodluck Jonathan as Senior Special Assistant on Civil Society and International Media. I must add that President Jonathan was the president at the time, so he didn't serve under him as when the president was a former president, if that makes sense. So during his term as president, he served as Senior Special Assistant on Civil Society and International Media. He was born in Lagos and he was the eldest son of Nigerian human rights activist and author Ken Saro-Wiwa. He was educated in Nigeria. I'm going to tell you a bit about Ken Saro-Wiwa Sr. in a bit. He was educated in Nigeria and at Stancliffe Hall School and Tonbridge School in England, and then at the School of Slavonic and East European Studies, now part of University College, London. He was editor of the United Kingdom's Guardian's periodical New Media Lab, where he developed content for the paper's online edition. Okay, so that's Ken Saro-Wiwa Jr., who died on this day in 2016. Now about his dad. His dad was Ken Saro-Wiwa, and he was a famous Nigerian author, playwright, and human rights activist as well. I will talk about him on the anniversary of his death, which is on the 10th of next month. So I'm going to go into more details about his father. But suffice to say that he followed his father's footsteps in speaking up for his community. Now, there's a company, an oil company, which name I won't mention, who were operating in his father's village and the villages around his father's village as well. And due to the oil exploration or the exploratory activities, the land was polluted. And obviously, the livelihoods of these people, these villages, were mostly farmers, some of them fishermen, were affected because of oil spillages, incessant oil spillages. And then his father was an activist who wanted to better the lot of his people. And the government at the time, unfortunately, was a military government. And eventually, Ken Saro-Wiwa, his father, was tried with 9 other Ogoni men. That's where they come from. Their ethnic nationality was Ogoni ethnic nationality. They were tried for treason and they were hung on the 10th of November 1995. But a bit more about that next month, November 10th. Okay, so that's his son, who spent most of his, probably a huge amount of his life in the United Kingdom. So he died in London exactly 4 years ago. So to his family and friends, admirers worldwide, our hearts go out to you today. Thinking about your son and father who passed on this day in 2016. He also wrote a book. So this is his father. That's him there. I can show you the book that he wrote. It's titled In the Shadow of a Saint. And that's the young Ken Saro-Wiwa Jr. with his father in the book. So these are memoirs of his father, So go check it out. Check it out on Amazon. I think it's $5, something like that. Right, guys, last but not least, today, this happened a few hours ago. SpaceX launches 60 Starlink satellites into orbit. So that's a Starlink space rocket launching the satellite today. This mission, known as Starlink 13, will be SpaceX's 14th Starlink flight since the company began launching large batches of satellites into orbit in 2019. It should take 1 hour and 3 minutes for the satellites to reach their deployment location. So this is Elon Musk's baby, if you like, one of his companies, SpaceX. So on that note, we shall end today's Today in History. My name again is Satonye Afiasimama. I hope you join me tomorrow for another edition of Today in History. See you tomorrow. Stay safe, but do not forget to like this video, share, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that you receive updates of my video uploads. Stay safe, guys. I shall see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.